Princess Arya had always lived a quiet, uneventful life. She spent her days in the royal palace, learning from the best minds in the kingdom. Most of her time was dedicated to studying engineering, history, and diplomacy. These were the skills that would shape her future as a leader of her people. For years, she had accepted this life, believing she was just another apprentice, another royal being prepared for a life of ceremony and responsibility. The palace was a grand place, full of ancient halls, intricate machinery, and the soft hum of technology. It was here that Arya felt most at peace, her mind focused on building new inventions and learning the ways of her ancestors. The royal engineers taught her everything they knew, showing her how to create machines that could change the future of the kingdom. The engineers were proud of her, often telling her that she had the potential to change the world. But Arya had always wondered why, despite her skills, she was only an apprentice, and not one of the kingdom's greatest leaders. The quiet days came to an abrupt end one morning when Arya's training session was interrupted by an emergency alert. The palace's security system flashed red as a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the hallways, announcing that the apex predators had entered the system. The apex predators were an ancient, fearsome race, known across the galaxy for their strength, cunning, and ruthlessness. No one had seen them for years, and many believed they had disappeared from the galaxy altogether. But now, they were back. Panic rippled through the palace. Soldiers rushed to their stations, preparing for battle. Arya was caught off guard, her heart racing as she watched the chaos unfold around her. She had never seen the royal palace in such a state of urgency. It was a place built for peace, not war. But today, it seemed that peace had been shattered. Arya's training had never prepared her for something like this. As the palace erupted in a flurry of activity, Arya was summoned to the royal council chamber. The council was made up of the wisest and most trusted advisors of the kingdom, and they were tasked with making the most important decisions in times of crisis. When Arya entered the chamber, she was met by the serious faces of the council members, their eyes filled with concern.
"Princess Arya," one of the council members said, his voice stern, "the situation is dire."
"The apex predators are after something we cannot allow them to take. You need to understand the truth, Arya. It is time for you to know your real purpose." Arya stood in stunned silence as the council members exchanged glances. The room felt colder now, the weight of their words pressing down on her. She had always believed she was just an apprentice, but now something was changing. Something was unfolding that would alter the course of her life forever. One of the council members, an elderly man with a weathered face, stepped forward and activated a holographic projection. The room lit up with an image of an ancient map showing distant star systems and a path that led to an unknown destination. Arya's eyes widened as she looked at the map. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. "This is the map of your heritage, princess," the council member continued. "You are not just an apprentice. You are the last descendant of an ancient order, a lineage tied to the fate of the apex predators. Your ancestors once held the power to control the galaxy's most dangerous species, and now that power is yours." Arya's heart pounded in her chest as the words sank in. She had never imagined that her family's history could be so vast, so intertwined with the fate of the galaxy. Her mind raced with questions. Why had no one ever told her the truth? Why had she been kept in the dark all these years? "The apex predators are searching for something," the council member continued. "An artifact, a weapon that your ancestors created. It is a weapon unlike any other, capable of controlling the most powerful species in the galaxy. The predators know of its existence, and they will stop at nothing to find it. If they succeed, it will mean the end of everything we hold dear." Arya was speechless. She had always thought her life was simple, predictable. But now, she realized that she was at the center of something far larger than herself. Her purpose was not just to study and learn. It was to protect the galaxy from an ancient threat, and she had to do it alone.
You must take this weapon, Arya, the council member urged.
The only way to defeat the apex predators is to find the weapon first. It is hidden in the heart of their homeworld, and you are the only one who can reach it. The map will guide you. Arya could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had been an apprentice, but now she was expected to become a leader, a warrior, someone who could save the galaxy. The weight of this responsibility was overwhelming. She had never been trained for something like this. She had spent her life learning about machines, not about war or survival. But as the council member's words echoed in her mind, a sense of determination began to grow inside her. She couldn't ignore this. She couldn't run away. The galaxy needed her. Where do I start? Arya asked, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. The council member nodded, pleased with her resolve. You must first go to the archives. There you will find the key to unlocking the power of your ancestors. Once you have it, you can begin your journey. But be warned, Princess.
The apex predators will be watching you every step of the way. They will stop at nothing to ensure that you fail. Arya nodded, her mind now focused.
She knew what she had to do. She would find the weapon, whatever it took. And she would face the apex predators, even if it meant risking her life. She was no longer just an apprentice. She was the last hope for her people. As she left the council chamber, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that everything in her life had changed. The quiet, peaceful days were over. She was no longer a student in the royal palace. She was a princess on a mission to save the galaxy from destruction. The weight of the task ahead pressed heavily on her shoulders, but she didn't falter. She would find the weapon. She would fight the apex predators, and she would do it for her people, for the future of the galaxy. As Arya made her way to the archives, she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets her ancestors had hidden from her. The answers she sought were just within reach, but she also knew that the deeper she went, the more dangerous the journey would become. And she was ready to face whatever came next. Princess Arya had never imagined her life would change so dramatically. Just days ago, she had been an apprentice, spending her time learning about technology and history. Now she had learned that she was the last descendant of an ancient lineage, and that her destiny was far greater than she had ever believed. It was hard to accept, hard to believe, but the truth was clear. She was the key to stopping the apex predators, and she had a weapon, an ancient power that could protect the galaxy from destruction. The council had given her the task of finding the weapon, hidden deep in the heart of the apex predator's homeworld. Arya had always been a scholar, a thinker, and a dreamer, but now she had to be a leader. The weight of this responsibility was heavy on her shoulders, but there was no turning back. She had to act. She had to find the weapon. As she made her way to the palace archives, Arya couldn't shake the sense of uncertainty that lingered in her mind. She had never been prepared for something like this. Her training had been focused on invention and diplomacy, not combat. How could she lead an army? How could she stop the apex predators? She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew she had no choice. The galaxy needed her, and she would do whatever it took to protect it. The palace archives were a vast, quiet space filled with ancient books, scrolls, and holographic displays. It was here that Arya had spent countless hours studying the history of her people, learning about their rise to power, their struggles, and their eventual downfall. But today she wasn't looking for history lessons. Today she was searching for something much more important, the key to unlocking the weapon that could save them all. As she walked through the long rows of bookshelves, Arya felt a sense of awe. The knowledge contained in these walls was vast, stretching back thousands of years, but it was also overwhelming. There were so many books, so many records. How could she possibly find what she was looking for? Arya's eyes fell on a small, dusty section of the archives that she had never noticed before. The shelves here were old, their contents worn and faded. She walked over, running her fingers over the spines of the books. The titles were written in a language she didn't recognize. She had studied many ancient languages, but this one was unfamiliar. Still, something about this section of the archives called to her. She could feel it in her bones, the connection to something long forgotten. Taking a deep breath, Arya pulled a book from the shelf and opened it. As she read the first few lines, her heart raced. The words were written in an ancient script, but with the help of the palace's translation technology, Arya quickly understood. The book spoke of her ancestors, of the powerful warriors they had created to protect humanity. These warriors were genetically engineered beings, bred for strength, speed, and intelligence. They were the perfect soldiers, the perfect guardians. The book went on to describe the weapon that her ancestors had created, a powerful energy device that could control the galaxy's most dangerous species. It was said that the weapon was hidden in a secret location, deep within the heart of the apex predator's homeworld, but the key to finding it had been lost to time. Only someone with the blood of the ancient order could unlock its secrets. Someone like Arya. As Arya continued to read, she learned of the ancient warriors who had once fought alongside her ancestors. These warriors had been trained in combat, in strategy, and in survival. They were the guardians of the weapon, tasked with protecting it from those who would misuse its power. But after her ancestors fell, the warriors disappeared. They had scattered across the galaxy, their whereabouts unknown, until now. Arya closed the book and looked around the archives. She could feel the weight of the past pressing down on her. She wasn't just an apprentice. She wasn't just a princess. She was the last hope of her people, and the only one who could stop the apex predators from destroying everything. The weapon was the key, but Arya didn't know where to start. The book had given her clues, but they were vague and difficult to interpret. She needed help. She needed to find the ancient warriors, the ones who had been trained to protect the weapon. They were the only ones who could guide her on this journey. But where could she find them? The galaxy was vast, and the warriors had been lost for centuries. How could she track them down? As Arya stood there, lost in thought, she was interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind her. She turned to see a familiar face, General Koran, one of the kingdom's most trusted military leaders. "Princess," Koran said, bowing slightly, "I've come to check on your progress. The council is growing anxious."
They want to know if you found anything. Arya nodded, her mind racing. I found something, she said, but I need help.
"I need to find the warriors who protected the weapon. They're the only ones who can help me unlock its power." Koran's eyes narrowed. "The warriors? I've heard of them, but they disappeared long ago."
No one knows where they are. I know, Arya replied.
"But I believe they're out there, hiding somewhere. The book I found, it speaks of their training and their role in protecting the weapon. I have to find them." Koran paused, considering her words. "The council has already prepared a ship for you," he said. "We've gathered a small group of soldiers who can accompany you on your journey, but we don't know where to start. The galaxy is vast, and the apex predators are closing in." Arya stood tall, her determination growing. "I'll find them. I have to. The fate of the galaxy depends on it." Koran nodded, impressed by her resolve. "Very well.
We'll leave immediately. The ship is waiting." Arya followed Koran out of the archives and into the palace courtyard. The ship was a sleek, advanced vessel ready for takeoff.
It was equipped with the latest technology, and it would be their best chance at finding the warriors and stopping the apex predators. Arya climbed aboard, her heart pounding with anticipation.
This was the moment she had been waiting for. This was her destiny.
As the ship lifted off into the sky, Arya looked out the window, her mind focused on the task ahead. She was no longer just an apprentice. She was a leader, a protector, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The apex predators had made their move, but so had she. The fight for the galaxy had just begun. The journey to the outer colonies was long and dangerous. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Arya, making her feel small and insignificant. Yet with every passing moment, she grew more certain of her purpose. The weight of her mission had become her driving force. She was not just a princess, not just an apprentice. She was the last descendant of an ancient order, a protector of the galaxy. The apex predators were closing in, and only she had the power to stop them. The ship, sleek and fast, cut through the darkness of space. The crew, a mix of soldiers and engineers, worked silently at their stations. They were well trained, ready for anything. But they had never faced anything like the apex predators. Arya knew the risks were high. The apex predators were known for their relentless attacks, their advanced technology, and their ability to track their enemies across the galaxy. The crew had to be prepared for anything. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. Arya spent most of her time in the ship's control room, studying the ancient map she had found in the archives. The map was a guide to the lost warriors, but it was incomplete. It only showed fragments of information, clues scattered across different star systems. Some of the information was decades, even centuries old. But Arya was determined. She had to find the warriors, the last of her ancestors' guardians. Only they could help her unlock the weapon, and without it, the apex predators would destroy everything. Days turned into weeks as the ship traveled further into the unknown. Arya had never been this far from the palace before. The outer colonies were a lawless place, filled with pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries. It was a dangerous environment, but it was also where the lost warriors were rumored to be hiding. The map had led them to this region of space, and Arya was certain that the warriors would be somewhere nearby. The crew had made stops at several planets, each more hostile than the last. They gathered information, asking around in the seedy bars and marketplaces for any sign of the warriors. But every lead turned out to be a dead end. No one seemed to know where the warriors were, and some were even unwilling to speak of them. It was as if the warriors had vanished from the galaxy altogether. Arya had begun to feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. She had come so far, and yet she still had no answers. She had to find the warriors. She had to unlock the weapon. Without it, the apex predators would have the upper hand. The thought of failure haunted her every night, but she couldn't let herself give up. The fate of the galaxy was at stake. One evening, as the crew prepared to leave another planet with no new information, Arya was summoned to the ship's bridge. Koran, the general who had accompanied her, was standing by the window, staring out at the stars. He looked troubled.
"Princess,"
he said as she approached, "we've intercepted a transmission."
"It's coming from one of the nearby planets. It's an old encrypted message, but it's addressed to you."
Arya's heart skipped a beat. "To me?" Cora nodded. "It's from someone who claims to know where the warriors are. They say they have information that could lead us to them." Arya's mind raced. This could be the breakthrough they had been waiting for. She didn't waste a moment. "Prepare the landing shuttle. We're going to investigate." The planet they were headed to was a small, rocky world located on the edge of the outer colonies. It was a desolate place with little to offer in terms of resources or civilization. But it was strategically important, a place where smugglers and outlaws often hid from the law. It was the perfect place to find someone who knew about the lost warriors. The shuttle descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, touching down in a barren wasteland. The crew disembarked, weapons ready, as they made their way to a small hidden bunker in the distance. Arya's heart pounded in her chest. Could this be the moment she had been waiting for? Inside the bunker, they were met by an old man, bent and weathered by time. His clothes were ragged, and his eyes were clouded with age. But there was a sharpness to him, a spark of intelligence that Arya couldn't ignore.
"You're the princess,"
the man said, his voice raspy.
"I've been waiting for you."
Arya nodded,
not sure what to expect. You have information about the warriors? The old man smiled, a twisted grin that sent a shiver down Arya's spine. I know where they are. But it's not going to be easy. They've been hiding for a reason. The warriors have their own rules, their own code. They don't just follow anyone. They follow those who prove themselves worthy. Arya's pulse quickened. What do I need to do? The man's eyes narrowed. You'll have to face them, princess. They won't just give you their loyalty. You'll have to earn it. And I can tell you this, there's no guarantee that they'll help you. But if you're determined enough, they might just give you what you need. Arya didn't hesitate. She had come this far. She wasn't going to stop now. Tell me where to find them. The old man reached into his coat and pulled out a small, holographic device. He handed it to Arya. This will guide you. But beware, these warriors are not like anything you've faced before. They are the last of their kind, and they have their own way of doing things. Don't underestimate them. Arya took the device and examined it closely. It was a map, but it was different from the one she had been using. This one was more detailed, more specific. It showed a hidden facility on a remote planet, far from the known galaxy. This was where the warriors were hiding. The old man watched her carefully. Go now. Time is running out. The apex predators are already on their way. Arya nodded, feeling a sense of urgency settle over her. She turned to Corin, who had been standing silently by her side. Prepare the ship. We're going after them. The crew wasted no time. The shuttle lifted off, and the ship set a course for the remote planet indicated on the map. The journey ahead would be the most dangerous one yet. But Arya was determined. She couldn't afford to fail. The warriors were the key to unlocking the weapon, and the weapon was the only hope against the apex predators. As the ship traveled deeper into uncharted space, Arya couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. She had come so far, but the hardest part was still ahead. The warriors were elusive, mysterious, and deadly. She didn't know what to expect when she met them, but she knew one thing for sure. She had to be ready. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. The ship traveled deeper into uncharted space, its sleek hull cutting through the darkness. Arya stood in the observation deck, her hands pressed against the cold glass as she stared out at the stars. The map had led them to a remote planet, far from the known galaxy. It was a place so isolated that few had ever set foot on its surface. Arya's mind raced as she thought of what lay ahead. The warriors, the ancient protectors, were waiting for her. She had come so far to find them. But would they help her? Would they trust her? As the ship descended through the atmosphere, Arya could see the barren landscape below. The planet was desolate, covered in rocky terrain and jagged mountains. There were no signs of life, no cities or towns, just emptiness. It was the perfect hiding place for the last of the warriors, and it was here that Arya would face her greatest challenge yet. The shuttle landed in a small valley, the engines humming softly as they powered down. Arya stood at the entrance, flanked by Corin and the rest of the crew. They were all armed and ready for anything. But Arya knew that this mission would be different from the others. The warriors were not like the apex predators. They were not like the soldiers she had trained with. These were ancient beings, trained in combat and strategy. They were the guardians of the galaxy's most powerful weapon, and Arya had to prove herself worthy of their trust. The crew stepped out of the shuttle, weapons at the ready. The planet's surface was cold and unforgiving, but Arya didn't feel the chill. Her mind was focused on one thing: the warriors. They were somewhere nearby, waiting for her to find them, and she had to be prepared for whatever came next. The map had led them to an ancient structure, hidden deep within a canyon. It was a temple of sorts, built into the rock itself. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, symbols that Arya didn't fully understand. It was clear that this place had been built by the warriors long ago. It was their home,
their refuge, and it was here that Arya would face them. As they approached the temple, Arya felt a sense of unease. The air was thick with tension, and the silence was deafening. There was no sound, no movement. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath. The crew moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing off the walls as they entered the temple. The interior was dark, lit only by faint blue lights that seemed to flicker and fade. The walls were lined with ancient weapons and armor, relics from a time long past. At the center of the temple, Arya saw them, 4 warriors standing in perfect formation. They were tall, imposing figures, their faces hidden behind helmets. Their armor was unlike anything Arya had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, designed for both protection and agility. The warriors stood still, watching her with piercing eyes, their expressions unreadable. Arya took a deep breath and stepped forward. She could feel the weight of their gaze on her. She knew this was the moment that would decide everything. "I am Princess Arya," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves that gripped her.
I seek your help. The apex predators are coming.
"I need your strength to stop them. Together, we can save the galaxy." The warriors did not respond. They simply stood there, unmoving. Arya's heart raced. She had been prepared for this. She had trained for this moment, but now that it was here, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was not in control. These warriors were not like anyone she had ever encountered. They were not bound by the same rules. They were ancient, powerful, and mysterious. Finally, one of the warriors stepped forward. His helmet was black and smooth with no visible markings. He was taller than the others, his presence commanding. He raised a hand, signaling the others to remain silent. The room fell into complete stillness. "Why should we help you?" the warrior asked, his voice deep and resonant.
"What makes you worthy of our trust?" Arya hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She had expected this, but now that the moment had come, she found herself struggling to find the right words.
She thought of everything that had brought her here, the journey, the battles, the loss. She thought of the galaxy, the people she had sworn to protect.
I am the last descendant of an ancient order,
she said, her voice growing stronger.
I carry the blood of those who once commanded the power of the galaxy's most dangerous species.
But I cannot do this alone. The apex predators are unlike anything we have faced before. I need your help to unlock the weapon that can stop them. Together, we can defeat them. Together, we can save the galaxy.
The warrior studied her for a long moment, his gaze intense.
Arya could feel the weight of his judgment, and for a moment she wondered if he would reject her. But then, slowly, he nodded.
You speak with conviction, he said, but words alone are not enough.
To prove yourself worthy, you must face us. You must show us that you have the strength to lead. If you can defeat us, then we will help you. If not, then you will be on your own. Arya's heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was the test she had been waiting for. She had to prove herself, not with words, but with action. The warriors stepped back, creating space in the center of the temple. Arya stood tall, her hands clenched at her sides. She had no choice. She had to fight. She had to show them that she was worthy of their trust. The battle was swift and brutal. The warriors were unlike anything Arya had ever encountered. They moved with precision, their strikes fast and powerful. Arya struggled to keep up, but her training and instincts kicked in. She blocked their blows, countering with strikes of her own. It was a dance of combat, each movement calculated and deliberate. But Arya was not just fighting to survive. She was fighting for something greater. She was fighting for the galaxy, for her people, for the future. She couldn't afford to lose. She wouldn't lose. As the battle raged on, Arya's movements became more fluid, more instinctive. She could feel the power within her growing, the strength of her ancestors coursing through her veins. She wasn't just an apprentice anymore. She was a warrior, a leader, and she would stop at nothing to protect those she loved. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the warriors stopped. They lowered their weapons, their eyes filled with respect.
You have proven yourself,
The lead warrior said.
You are worthy of our trust.
We will help you.
Arya stood, breathless but victorious. She had done it. She had earned their respect. She had proven that she was more than just a princess. She was a protector, a leader, and the only hope for the galaxy. The warriors led Arya to a hidden chamber within the temple, where the ancient weapon was stored. It was a massive, glowing device, unlike anything Arya had ever seen. The warriors explained that it had the power to control the apex predators and their armies, but it was also dangerous. If misused, it could destroy everything. Arya knew what she had to do. She would use the weapon, but she would also be careful. She would wield its power, but she would not let it control her. She would be the one to decide the fate of the galaxy. With the warriors by her side, Arya was ready for the final battle. The apex predators were coming. But now, she had the power to stop them.